Welcome back to this great edition of Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net. Our founder, Jack Roeser, and myself, Carol Parisi, have Carol Davis and Claire Van Horn, and we are talking about the IRS investigations today. So before the break, Carol, you were telling us what was going on, and during the break, we were talking a little bit about the big thumb and the fear that the people have. And I know we were also said the people, when the government fears the people, there's liberty. And when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. This is a very tyrannical display from our government.
Yes, it is.
Now, is the IRS actually part of our government?
Well, you know, the IRS reports, of course, to the Treasury Department. And it just, you know, I know there's some question about, you know, amendments to the Constitution, and are they really, should they really be? And that's a big subject in itself. But, you know, when you get an agency, I mean, since this scandal broke, there have been more revelations about what's going on there. You've got an agency that's so totally out of control. They're holding big, lavish conferences, spending millions of dollars of hard-earned taxpayers' dollars.
Look what the Obama administration has done to us on this thing. They've turned loose this acorn bunch, which is still getting government subsidies. All the rest of these wild liberal people doing this stuff. It's highly objectionable. And the Obama administration went after the Tea Party people who were newly getting private groups registered so that they could comply with the law about what you're doing and within certain bounds. And what did they do? They put it off, in your case, over a year. That's happened, it's legion everywhere. They put off people that they thought were against them. They didn't give a damn of what the law was, and they had the election, and they'd shut down all these groups that had no legal way to pass the money around under all these limits that are put on by the likes of Madigan. Madigan's got the millions of money. It's the Democrats that are rich in the state. It sure in hell isn't the Republicans that are in politics. That guy, and I'll tell you more about the immense amount of money he gets. And that daughter of his that's the Attorney General and can't find a crook in the whole crooked state of Illinois. The Madigans are really a pair. But they stuck the laws on us, and it's very, very hard to get any justice, because by the time we've unwound all this, the elections passed, Obama wormed his way in without the truth coming out about what they were doing. And
That's
so
right.
now we're picking up the pieces of how they battered us down.
Well, and we've heard from several of the leaders of many of these groups that were targeted that it did impact their get out the vote efforts.
Well, of course.
And because they saw how successful we were in 2010.
Nobody
they couldn't have that happen again in 2012.
All these
they had
groups
to do
are,
whatever they could to shut them down.
All these groups are based on having donors that give them money, and which means you're into C3 or C4 type groups, and so they put money in. Well, now they got very, very strict rules on that, and the people that send it in and the people that get it are all going to be in trouble unless you have done the dance exactly the way they wanted to do. So putting that off kept people from doing the things they might have done to oppose this massive government we've got that's suppressing us and running up huge debts. God, how I hate the amount of debt they put us in.
But that's the
And
funny
our
bit.
response was inhibited in this last election. I don't think Obama could have been elected if he didn't have his stinking IRS keeping decent people from incorporating the kind of organizations that are required of them before people can contribute to it. So they turned all of that off. That's an illicit election we just went through.
Well, Carol, you know, I've got a couple questions for you, because you say get out the vote efforts. How, in a nonpartisan manner, do you get out the vote?
Well, we do things like a nonpartisan voters guide. And of course, that requires, you know, sending questionnaires out to people who are running, and making phone calls, and then printing costs and all of that. And we do count on our contributions, the donations from good patriots all over, to help with those kind of expenses. And of course, if you know, there's threats from the IRS. You know, many people like to donate anonymously, and they start hearing that the IRS is demanding people's donor lists. Well, we told our members from the beginning that their information would always be kept confidential, and we never share that with anyone. And most other groups are like that. So that threat of being exposed is very difficult. You know, it's just the arrogance and the ineptitude. When you just recently find out that the same IRS just sent $46 million in refunds to 24,000 illegal aliens who all lived at the same address.
24,000 people at the same address.
Can you be?
That is insanity.
It is.
That is insanity. And you know what I find to be so insane too is they keep perpetrating this debt. And who pays the debt? Who's the debt collector? The IRS is the debt collector for their unaccountable spending.
And you know, Carol, the most frightening part of this whole thing is these are the people that are now in charge of our health care. Wake up, America.
Imagine
Agreed.
getting the IRS to manage our health care. Manage it. This is crazy.
It's terrifying, Jack. It's terrifying. Something needs to be done. People, call your congressman and say, no, we will not have this corrupt, inept organization in charge of anything anymore. They need to be abolished. End.
It's not going to happen. There's too much incestuousness between the IRS, the Federal Reserve, and
It's government itself. They are in all our lives. It's a scourge in every damn crevice of our lives. You know, this single-payer system is what we're supposed to get with the health thing, which means they tax us, take our money, make the decisions about what our health care will be, and kindly they spread it around to the purveyors of our health care, with them being the single payer. So we don't get to be the purchaser of services or goods that is the part of a free people. No, it goes off to a government. This fellow Obama is the most arrogant official I have ever seen. If he isn't a con man, I mean, that is the way he acts. And he acts as though he knows everything, we know nothing.
he is arrogant. He's very smug.
They want to manage us. We've had a great example made to us of what arrogance and the single-payer system does in the school system. Our schools stink by any international standards, and they are the most expensive as well. Here in this state, $16,000 per child per year. They've got us into a pension thing that can never be paid. So much for a government-run thing in our schools. They have made a complete wall-to-wall mess out of it. It doesn't serve anybody well except the stinking politicians and the stinking IEA union. That's a single-payer system.
there's that
They're going to do it to our health. They've done it to our politics. Our government is just plain too damn big.
Too damn irresponsible.
It's everywhere.
It's irresponsible. Now, I want to hear a little bit from you, Claire, because you work with a group, both of you ladies actually do, with voter integrity. You work with a national group. You've been trained by this national group called True the Vote.
True the Vote, yes.
We've got about a minute and a half before we go to break, but let's start hearing a little bit about that.
Okay, well, in our personal group and within our group, we decided not to go after a 501c3 or C4. We had actually put in an application, and on the advice of a couple of different accountants, they said, well, you really don't have any of the reasons to go after a 501c3 or C4 with what we were doing within our group. So I actually withdrew our application. And it was amazing how that happened, because it was just about 2 weeks before everything hit the fan and it all exploded. So I felt like we were very lucky that we decided not to go that route at all. But in the meantime, in working with the True the Vote people from Houston, they've had nothing but serious issues, not only on a level with their group, but on a personal level. They have been attacked on a personal level with their personal business over and over again. The FBI has shown up at their place of business several times. The IRS has had them under investigation. They have They have nitpicked on every detail of not only, like I said, the True the Vote group, but also the personal business of Catherine Engelbrecht and her husband.
Catherine Engelbrecht is
she
the
is
founder
the
of
founder
True the Vote.
Yes.
And they went after her husband and her personally.
Yes.
I want to hear more when we come back after the break and specifically what they did to them. This is horrible. Stay with us.